Hey, what are we cooking today? So we are back in Mom's cookbook, and today we are doing her green bean and potato thing. It's called a potato thing. 1 pound bacon cut into 1-inch pieces. 1 small onion chopped. I had a medium onion, so this is half of it. 1.5 to 2 pounds of green beans cut into pieces. These are fresh green beans. Potatoes. Now this gets complicated because it's math. So follow Mom here. I like to use small red ones, but you can use regular potatoes too. If I use the red ones, I figure about 3 per person. More if Steve or Chip are having some of this. Steve is my brother-in-law, by the way. Chip is my brother. And I leave them unpeeled and whole. If I use regular potatoes, I figure 1 large potato per person, plus 2 or 3 extra, and I peel them and cut them into big chunks. Add more potatoes for Chip or Steve. Use a good-sized pot. Good-sized pot. Crisp the bacon till it's cooked, but not crisp. Drain the fat. Add onions. Cook till onions are transparent. Add string beans and potatoes. Barely cover with water. Chicken stock is even better. Salt and pepper to taste. Bring to a boil, then cover. Lower heat and simmer about 10 minutes, then uncover and finish cooking about 30 minutes or more. So, that's the recipe. A little something about green beans. Because I gotta tell you something, I'm learning from experience that people have a difficulty putting into context that a plant-based diet is food that comes from plants, okay? So this rich lady had an apple tree in her front yard, and she never picked the fruit. Because in her mind, apples came from the grocery store, and they never came from a tree. So, the wonderful world of green beans. As you'll notice, there's this little stem here, and they grow like this on a plant at a farm somewhere. Now, when these mature, they get big, and they split open, and there's a bean inside, and the bean inside becomes beans, like frijoles or red beans, or all the other beans that you eat, okay? So that's what a green bean is. It's a bean that hasn't matured yet. Okay, so this little bit right here is extremely unpleasant. It is more fiber than you want to deal with. So you snap that off. Snap it off. It's like asparagus. It tells you where to cut it. You snap it off. You snap it off. Snap. Now, you line them up. Take your knife and cut them into pieces. And that is how you get cut up beans. So, I'll be back in a minute after I have a chance to render down this bacon a little bit and get the onions and get it all rocking and rolling. Back in a bit. I just want to show you a little something about heating up your pan before you put your ingredients, because remember, hot pan, cold oil, food don't stick. Learn that in cooking school. All right, so I've got a little bit of water here, and I'm going to sprinkle it in there. You hear that sizzle? That means the pan's good and hot. So we're going to add our bacon, and we're going to start rendering it down. We're just going to cook it up, let it cook, and we'll be back in a bit when this gets all nice and crispy. Okay, this bacon is right about where we want it. And Mom said drain the fat. So I'm going to show you some different methods to drain the fat We still want to keep some of the fat because that's what's going to cook our onions, that's what's going to cook our green beans, that's what's going to cook our potatoes, and that's what's going to help make the sauce. But as you can see, the bacon is pretty well just about done. So, to remove the grease, there's a couple of methods. You can use what's known as a bulbous baster. You can just go in there and suck up the juice. Or you can use a ladle, tip your pan, and just start scooping out the fat. Now, if you'll notice, I'm pressing down on the bacon and the fat is floating into the ladle. And so that's giving me the fat that I can skim off. And then the final method, when you've got just about all the fat scraped out that you can scrape, you can use a paper towel and just sop up the last of it if you want to. That, depending on how much fat is left. We're getting kind of low on fat in here, so it's getting harder to scrape it out. So we're almost done. And the bacon got a little crispier than Mom's instructions, but I kind of like it that way. So, my kitchen, my rules, right? Yep. So we have just a little bit of fat left in here, maybe about 3 tablespoons. So that's a little bit more than what we want. So I'm just going to grab a paper towel. I'm going to wad it up. Use your tongs if you're afraid. If not, I just dab it in there. And you're going to dab it and get up that last little bit of excess fat. So everybody's looking really super good. And we're going to now add our onions. Now, what did Mom say? Cook them until they're translucent. So that's just going to take a little bit. So as you can see, the bacon isn't like crisp, but can you see that? Yeah. So the bacon's not really crisp, but it is definitely cooked. So that's going to make really tasty. And it doesn't take long for the onions to cook. Matter of fact, we're really close to being done. So let's double check Mom's recipe and see what she wants us to do next. Okay, so Mom said that once our onions get, where'd my tongs go? Once our onions start to get translucent, and what she just means by that is soft, you know, they're never going to get clear all the way through transparent, but translucent is, it's, I don't know if you can see, but, well, hard to grab them. But anyways, you want them to be soft, you want them to start to look kind of clearish. And then she says, add the string beans. And then she says, add string beans and potatoes. And cover with water. Chicken stock is even better. Because remember, the plants have liquid in them. So as this cooks down, we're going to start creating a sauce out of that bacon and onion and green bean pot liquor and the potato. So let's grab that chicken stock. I do have some chicken stock in my freezer, but I didn't want to like thaw it, so this is just bouillon. I'm going to need a little more. Because she said just to cover, so we're just going to need a little bit more because we're not quite covered yet. So one more batch. All right, good. So everybody's covered. She says, add salt and pepper to taste, bring to a boil, then lower heat and simmer. Okay, so remember there's a lot of salt in here because we have the chicken bouillon that has salt in it, and then we have the bacon that has salt in it. So at this point, I'm just going to add pepper. I'm not going to add salt. And just give it a good few cranks, whatever makes you happy. You can never go wrong with pepper, unless it's a whole peppercorn. And we all know about that. So we're going to cover this up. We're going to bring it back to a boil, and we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so we've got a good boil going, and Mom said to reduce to simmer, so we're going to turn it down to low, bring to a boil, then lower heat, and simmer about 10 minutes with the cover on. So, cover back on. Set our timer for 10 minutes. And we'll see you in a few. Okay, my little timer is telling me that it's been 10 minutes of simmering. So now she says salt and pepper to taste, bring to boil, cover, then lower heat and simmer about 10 minutes, then uncover and finish cooking about 30 minutes more. So we're going to uncover it, and I'm going to taste it just to see how this broth is doing, to see if maybe we need some salt or more pepper. It's really salty, so we don't need salt. A little more pepper will work. When you have a situation like this where things are too salty, potatoes will usually pull some of that salt out. So let's see how our potatoes are doing in here. So here's one of the potatoes. We're going to stick it with a knife and see how it's cooking. So it's not, they're not soft yet. So they still have opportunity to pull some of that salt out. I know, it's kind of salty, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens as it reduces. Because as it reduces, it's going to get softer. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Worst case scenario, I can just turn it into a soup later. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So see you back in about 30 minutes. Okay, that salt content was really, really bothering me. So what I did was I got 3 more potatoes. I cut them up. I put them in. I put it back on for another 10 minutes. And that's what the timer's going off on. We're going to set the timer for 15 minutes because we're kind of trying to get to that 30 minutes that Mom talked about. We're going to taste it and we're going to see if we were able to get that salt content to come down a little bit. Because it was really salty. Did you hear me? It was really salty. Much better. Definitely much better. Could use a little more pepper. But never go wrong with pepper. And so now we're just going to let it cook without the lid. This sauce is going to reduce, and then we're going to have our final product. So we'll be back in a bit. Okay, we're just about as done as we're going to get. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take a knife and you're going to poke your potatoes. If they go in nice and easy, then your potatoes are done. Then grab one of your green beans, make sure that they're cooked all the way through. The broth has a nice good flavor to it. Since we put those extra potatoes in there that kind of pulled out some of that extra salt, this is good to go. I'm going to have it for my lunch at work. Yeah. So that's it for this week. Mom's potato and green bean thing with bacon and taters and yummy goodness. So until next week, don't forget, I love you, and ta-ta for now.